Alright, so hello everybody, my name is Christian, and today we are going to be ranking all of the Novaflared units. We have quite a few in the game at this point, and then we've just gotten 4 new ones. So I want to talk about all of these today, and just how actually good I think the redesigns were, compared to how the units used to be. And joining us today is going to be Waveman, if you'd like to say hi.
So, what's up, everybody?
So,
I'm here to be the second opinion. I think
what's up?
I don't know if I should talk about this now. Actually, maybe we'll talk about it when we actually talk about some units.
Okay then.
But okay, I'll just say it then. Now, whatever. You're saying that we're going to rank this based on how much we like it, so I guess this is moot. But just in case, people think that this is a bit of a more of a feels crafty thing, it is. But second of all, the thing about Novaflares is that they were released in 2 separate eras. There was a world before Anomaly Arbitration, there was a world after it. So when you tend to look at evaluations for Jingliu, the first batch of Novaflares, Silver Wolf, Kafka, whatever, it was in the context that we didn't know that Anomaly Arbitration would ruin everybody's expectation of what a unit should be.
Yeah.
So I want to make it clear that the standards for Novaflares before and after the first batch are completely different.
Honestly, that is a very phenomenal point. A lot of people always look at things through the lens of how efficiently are they able to zero cycle. I know that's what a lot of that more hardcore community tends to look at, and now the same goes for like something like Anomaly Arbitration, where that is now the metric of, hey, are you actually a decent enough character? What can you do in this mode comparatively?
I do think that zero cycling in and of itself is an overrated metric. However,
yes, agreed.
there are people that tend to look at zero cycles as a sort of metric that this unit is good, but fail to recognize how much skill it takes or how much investment it really takes for him to get there. There's also the side of people that take zero cycles so non-seriously that they think, because this character can't zero cycle doesn't mean they're brick, even though they themselves probably aren't going to 5 cycle with them anyway. Like they overestimate their own skill. And I don't know. I tend to see that quite a lot of both sides of overestimating their own performances.
I think I most typically see the side that takes it a bit too seriously. But then there's also the people who are really confused on how they can't clear, and then it'll be like a Firefly team without the Dahlia. And I'm like, oh, that's a rough one.
I have favorite characters that are bad too, This isn't like I don't always win. I haven't pulled Mono Rem or Mono Elation. I'm not like that type of guy, and one of my favorites was Blade for the longest time, and I pulled Jade just for Blade, and like, is it clearing? Yes, it is. Do I recommend it? Not on my fucking life, I will. No.
Literally, never.
Put a gun to my head. Might as well shoot me if I said yes. Yeah, I'm lying on my teeth.
Well, this is a good start to the video.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty insightful start to this Novaflare tier list. We're veering off multiple directions now.
I could make this alone a video.
True. You could just make it a podcast, really.
Crazy part is, people would still watch it. That's the crazy thing.
Hey, there's a certain magic to this type of stuff.
Alright, we should probably get started. Alright, so I think I have this organized in the order they came out. Hold on. There we go. Alright, this is the order that they came
that's
out
right. Yeah, that's right.
So in that case, let's start with Silver Wolf. Silver Wolf got, honestly, a lot of really solid changes. I might do like a graphic on screen or something, but the main thing that I feel like really got improved about her is the fact that her ult actually just became AoE, which was really nice considering a freaking 4-star got used more consistently than her because she wasn't AoE, despite having better tools in every other aspect. So I think giving her the AoE was really nice, and then they lowered all of her effect hit rate requirements by a pretty substantial margin, and they gave her better energy regen. Honestly, like, I like a lot of what they did to Silver Wolf, because they just made her objectively one of the better options finally, and over Pela, which was the big thing. Like, she just got significantly better at her role. She got more efficient at it while having very, very good eidolons as well. So the investment there was also pretty substantial if you wanted to get like an E2. Like, her E2 was already good, and then just by having those simple changes, the value of that automatically goes up because the character itself was so much more universal and so much better.
I really like the fact that they didn't really change that much in her kit. It's more like they changed her base kit. They changed more of her base kit to synergize more with her eidolons and become more massive increases. Like, the energy generation she got from her base kit is enough to provide a one-turn ultimate for her E2, which is, just really strong.
Yeah.
Previously, I think she needed 2. Without, if she needed to kill, I think that could be 1 turn. But either way, I don't remember it right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's much more comfortable to play. I really like the SP part of it. Again, it's just Anomaly Arbitration may have ruined expectations, but around the time she was competing with the likes of Tribi, and that's really impressive for a unit her stature. I do like so. I think she's one of the better Novaflares for sure.
I think we're kind of thinking a similar area, so where do you want to put Silverwolf?
Looking at the competition, I would say I would be happy to accept an A, but in my personal feeling is S.
I'm 100% with you on that. It's so hard to complain about this.
Yeah, you know what, fair enough. She started off so low that the only way you could go is like up, really. So, and they took her up a lot, so.
So next up, we've got Kafka. I don't know how you feel about DOT, but like, I'm a massive DOT fan. It was kind of what got me more into the game.
Yeah, I'm a fan of DOT. I use it to 3-star a king and knight stages very, very easily.
Yeah, I always tell people about this. Like, if you are trying to play Anomaly Arbitration and you're going to invest in any one specific team, DOT or Break are always such good choices because there's almost always a mechanic that they can completely negate. Or they completely negate, like, every Anomaly Arbitration mechanic for the most part. So, the main thing that was changed about her, or the main things that were changed about her, is that all of her detonations kind of got an overall. So it was switched so that she could detonate on multiple targets with her skill, and then she was also now able to detonate on follow-up attacks. They also made it so that the follow-up came around more consistently, and also they gave her the interesting buff where if you have an effect hit rate of above 75%, you would have the attack increased by 100%. Which is obviously designed with the fellow DOT girlies in mind, so that Kafka can now serve as that, like, 100% more of a supportive role for them, instead of having to do the budget options that we used to when the game came out, which was, like, Ron May constantly, and then eventually, like, if you wanted to, you could do Robin as well. Like, this was an actual built-in additional damage boost and support specifically for DOT.
I don't remember if this was true, but I believe that before the Novaflare, Kafka had issues doing a 2-turn ultimate, which made tutorials upside not as big.
Yeah.
And when she got her Novaflare, because she gains the talent more often, she gains a very specific amount of energy to the point that she can actually do a 2-turn ultimate pretty consistently without killing. Kafka also evolved much better than the first batch because her thing was like being part of DOT.
Yeah.
And that team has ironically stood pretty well in terms of value in time because, after DOT was finally done with their updates, they decided to shill Break, and then it would bring another wave of anti-crit stages, and those were generally the most annoying. So having DOT on an account was really valuable, and it continues to be to this day because even if you're not fighting anti-crit, they're still just kind of good now because of all the changes. They don't suffer from a lot of matchup issues.
Exactly.
I think she's more like a Seele to me type of a Novaflare.
Mm-hmm.
In a way that they completely double down on her gimmicks.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't remove all of her weaknesses. It doesn't really remove, like, from a perspective of, like, a design, it doesn't really change her that much as a unit. Like, this is still the DOT enabler. Like, she's not going to be a generic support anytime soon.
Yeah.
She's not going to have, like, some, radical changes, really, but it's just a good unit still. I mean, it's because DOT is just a good team, too.
Would that be more of a B or an A? I don't think it's like a super low ranking Novaflare, because again, it still did what it was supposed to do. Like it made her more
definitely got a
competitive.
lot more changes compared to some of these, yeah. But I don't wanna put it at S. I feel like it's
No, that's absolutely fair. Again, just in terms of what was changed and how impactful it was, I feel like it's a bit different.
Yeah, I remember even back in the day when the Novaflare of Kafka released, I was saying that she really doesn't need it because it's not like people are going to steal the DOT enabler role. Like Kafka's always gonna be there, even if she didn't get a Novaflare. So like, if we're gonna judge this off the amount of like changes to them as like a design of a unit, I wouldn't rank her any higher than A, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell if B feels harsh, but I feel like that might be appropriate. They just kept her in essentially the very same role and just doubled down. So, like you said, a lot of the weaknesses are still going to exist, but she's just so much better at what she was already meant to do. Yeah, I think B is fair. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. So now Blade. You want to talk about this one a little bit?
Blade was now fully HP scaling instead of having an attack scaling part of his kit. Yeah, one of his traits is converted healing into his like loss tally thing.
Yes.
At like a portion of it. The biggest reason why you would want Blade exactly is because his E1 got massively overhauled that completely changed how he worked as a unit.
Yeah.
Because back then you would just spam ult because, well, you know, ult is there, but with his E1, his enhanced basic attack is actually really strong that you might not want to use it as much. You know, it's very, in terms of power, I don't think it got as much, of course, compared to these other units, but in terms of a design standpoint, everything in his kit blends so well. Like the extra energy from his talent is really neat design because he just, if you have a lot of HP loss ticks, he gets his ultimate faster. But you might not want to use that just yet in case you want to use a cheeky basic attack if you're E1. His HP loss from his skill, it's a very nice design. I really like how all of the parts of his kit just interact with each other.
I like so much just how it feels like you can kind of be a little bit more creative with this character. One of the earlier collabs that I did, it was talking with Coda about Blade in general. And it's so funny seeing what Coda's team was at that point. I think it was Hyacinth E1 with Light Cone. And then he had RMC with another Hyacinth Cone, so that he could proc even more HP ticks. And then I think it was just Tribby, because, you know, Tribby. It was exactly that, like, he found more ways to get more HP ticks, so that he could use that follow-up attack even more. It was just so cool getting to see a character that it felt like you could have a bit more of that creativity with, and it would still work incredibly well. Overall, I do think a lot of what they did for Blade was genuinely really, really nice.
Of course, in terms of power, I'm not gonna rate it really high, but in terms of in terms of the actual design of it, it connects very well with each other. It's like a puzzle piece that's just very good. I like the entire result of it when it's put together, you know? If you block out all of the numbers, it's one of the funniest kits, I think.
So now that lands us as where we're gonna rank him. I think it's better than Kafka. I'm currently thinking A. Is this like an S angle for you, or what do you think?
I think it's an A because, you know, in Kafka's case, Blade is similar. He also doubled down in what he did, but Blade started off at a much lower point, and I feel like a lot of his kit connects with each other way too well. I think it took a lot of effort to design Blade compared to Kafka.
Yeah.
So I would say A, yeah.
I'm glad we agree on this then. Jingliu. I remember, I was honestly really excited about this Novaflare when it came out. I'm like, oh wow, they're finally fixing her up, and then she's switching to full HP scaling. That's cool. In hindsight, that didn't quite go as well as I thought it would, but at the time, I was very excited for it. I'm pretty sure what they did was they made it so that her enhanced skill state, it would now last for a bit longer. I think they built it in so
ideally permanently.
Yeah, ideally permanently. I think right off rip, you, instead of having 2 stacks, you now start with 3, which I think was one of her eidolons. on top of just buffing all the numbers, they made it so that if you took damage or consumed HP, I think a total of 20 times, you would get a new stack of Syzygy so that you could continue in your enhanced state the whole time. When she has Syzygy max stacks, you get a defense ignore, which is cool, I guess.
Yes. She has a very similar E1 to Blade, which just ultra buffed their ultimate and enhanced skill, I believe.
Yes. I thought the kit was like very impressive when I initially saw it. Now looking at it and how much of a jump it was for her, it was still a really big jump. But I'm gonna be honest, like, I think based on the availability of the characters and the situation that they were in, an invested Blade comparatively to an invested Jingliu, I feel like Blade not only had a more functional kit, like one that flowed better, but also probably just a better one.
I think the problem that Jingliu's Novaflare had compared to Blade was the fact that he could act out of turn was an incredible function of his kit in stuff like Pure Fiction, where the enemies were just really aggressive, or like stuff like Huohuo, obviously. Meanwhile, with Jingliu, she just kind of has to sit there in the turn order waiting for her turn, and she's not like an Evernight, you know, where if she sits longer, she compensates for it by doing more damage. In Jingliu's case, if you were already capped, the enemy's acting more doesn't buff her in any way. She ends up being like this weird in between of Blade and Evernight, but not getting the good stuff that makes Evernight tick and Blade tick. I think that in terms of a design perspective, she even fails at what Mighty is supposed to do, which is, even if Mighty doesn't act, at least he can Godslayer be God sometimes if he loses enough HP.
Yep.
In Jingliu's case, once you reach that max, you can't buff her any further by the enemies being aggressive, and that hurts her in the long run, really.
Like, what do you gain out of it at that point? You gain absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and also it's just the fact that I'm trying to remove my bias to this, because the thing about Blade is that he was 50-50 loss.
Yep.
And the fact that he's reliant on E1 was something that is very, excusable. In Jingliu's case, at E0, she's whatever, but at E1 she's good like Blade, but it's like you had to pull way more to get her than Blade.
It was exactly that. You can just get an E1 Blade at any point by losing a 50-50. During the patch where they were all getting buffed and all came out, getting an E1 Blade as your loss, honestly, really not even a bad loss. Like, you had now an extremely competitive character for the content at that point.
Yeah, Blade was a 50-50 loss since 3.2, so there was 2 patches where people might have gotten him before, even before, like, maybe you've gotten in 1.1 already, or 1.0, I don't remember. The price tag just didn't justify the Novaflare, really.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, you're absolutely right about just the complete lack of any sort of out-of-turn damaging ability, and then you're not getting rewarded for getting your ass beat even more, which is what every other character who is an HP scaler can do for, well, all the good ones. I'm just going to preface that in case I'm forgetting something. Like, all the other ones give you some sort of reward.
Even the bad ones, actually.
Oh, even the bad ones?
Mighty.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. That's great. That's great. You're not getting incentivized to actually take damage at all. So much of it just does not work as efficiently as I thought it would.
I think that Evernight was the perfect way Jingliu could have been as a unit. How Evernight works is that if she keeps getting hit, or if the enemy, if her Memo Sprite keeps getting hit, she just keeps accumulating these charges, and you can get up to like 36 in like very aggressive fights. Yeah. And once Evernight's turn starts, she just unloads all of it. Meanwhile, if the enemies don't hit a lot, you might get like, 12 before her turn, and then she hits way less, but like that's fair. In Jingliu's case, that just, once you reach the cap, there's no reward for it.
You don't get like some sort of bonus damage, you don't get an out-of-turn attack, you actually gain nothing if you're trying to play her correctly, which is trying to get to your max stack, because then that way you get the 25% def ignore ability or whatever it was.
That's also really crummy, because if you were going to make someone a carry, you don't want a fluctuating defense ignore buff.
No, not at all.
I don't think you want that. Well, to be fair though, it's in her teams, there's not a lot of defense shred, I guess, but fluctuating crit rate buffs, fluctuating defense rate buffs are always that bad to play around with.
I think they were still going off of the idea that, oh yeah, people will just use their Jingliu SIGs with her, and it's like, no, you've already released a signature light cone that is just so much better for HP scalers. Like, if they have that, that's going to be the ideal option. With her light cone in mind, it still doesn't even catch up unless you have another substantial source of defense shred, which wasn't in her teams, like you said. Like, it doesn't exist on any of her conventional teammates.
I think Jingliu was also the prime first example of Novaflares being used as a way to shill newer units rather than just updating units, selflessly.
So then that brings us to her placements.
I don't really think she got boosted as much as like Silverwolf either, like fixing a lot of her problems. I don't think, well, she didn't. She didn't really double down so hard on her previously intended role like Kafka. So you can guess what my opinion is on this. I don't know. And also the price tag is just unjustifiable.
Yeah, so that's the other big one that I was thinking about. Let's just
No, that's too. That's
too harsh.
Yeah, we're about to see that green one right there.
Okay, yep. All right, that's fair. That's fair. We'll put her down there alone. Yeah, this.
At least they tried with this one. At least they tried.
You know what they did, but also again, price tag and the such intense shilling aspects do kind of leave a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
I get it though. Okay, I get it. All right, so now that takes us to the new era of Novaflares, which is after Anomaly Arbitration has come out. So now we've got the first two of this, which were probably two of the more surprising Novaflare candidates, I think, for most of the community. So Black Swan and Sparkle. We can start with Black Swan.
I remember in my Novaflare speculation video about Black Swan that a lot of her changes are going to be comfort changes more than actual power changes.
Yes.
And that's what she got. She's more consistent. She can basically cap Arcana without like any effort against even fast bosses.
Yep.
And her ultimate buff is no longer the pain in the ass condition that the enemy needs to take a turn first.
Yep.
It's always just there, the wrist shred. And the Eidolon changes were really good. Like, surprisingly, each Eidolon change was insane. So I really like that part of it. Even E4 was useful. She was kind of a flag bearer for new gen DPSs that have some form of supportive capabilities, because the fact that Black Swan has similar amp to Ron May without the weakness break efficiency is scary. I don't know if I support that design decision or not, because the fact that she has more damage percent than Ron May and also has defense shred already based without even E0, and at E1 it's even more insane.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy.
It is insane how much Black Swan provides in terms of just generalist damage support compared to somebody like Ron May, who has been just one of the most consistent supports in the game. She's always just been there as like, hey, I can work everywhere. They gave that same sort of flexibility to Black Swan, which is very, very strange when you really look at it. I do like what they did. They've given her just a lot of damage boosts for her ideal team so that she fits in with it better. They made her more SP positive because now you don't have to worry about actually applying your skill to get more of that defense reduction, more of that damage and all that. You can just continuously basic, which is really nice for a team like DOT, which can be very SP heavy. And the Eidolons are, oh my god. She already had a very nice E1, at least, but all of the other ones got overhauled to such an unbelievable level. It's so nice to see. It's interesting because this Novaflare is so peculiar in comparison to everything else. Genuinely so little about her overall kit and her damage potential. Like, none of that got changed, but she was just given so much more on what she already did, and that has made her just a way better teammate overall. All around, it's honestly a very solid design, and they've improved her to the point that, yeah, she just feels like a great option now instead of being that kind of annoying ass, like, oh, I don't know if I can actually do this. She always ended up as one of the more replaceable members of the team. This helps cement her as an actual staple role in where she's supposed to be.
She does end up setting the precedent for DPSs that have supportive capabilities. Like if you look at her amp, she's very similar to Ashvale, which you know, we're probably gonna see a lot more Ashvales in due time. Just DPSs that have actual support buffs for some reason.
It is interesting how we went from, it was essentially, like, 3.x was essentially an era of supports with DPS capabilities, and now we're slowly seeing the script flipped for this version, and it's now DPS with more supportive capabilities, while still managing to be good DPSs. So now, where is Black Swan going? It's obviously, it's not gonna be down in the dumps right down here.
Yeah, I also wouldn't put her in B, because I feel like I really like her Eidolon change. Like, compared to every other character, except for Welt, the changes to her Eidolons are so good that I really can't place her any lower than B even. Like, I really appreciate the amount of effort they put into with her Eidolons. Like, even the E4 is useful. Like, how is that possible?
One of the rarest sights in Star Rail, honestly. In a team type where you're very likely to invest to improve them because DOT just doesn't get much, they have made her Eidolons they've made her Eidolons actually capable of influencing her strength and her team strength so substantially. So now you're honestly kind of set to actually invest in that, and you will see a very substantial reward because of these changes that they did. And that's really, really nice on top of all the kit changes that they've done. I'm leaning A. Do we think S? I don't think it's quite on the same level as Silverwolf's.
Yeah, because I feel like Silverwolf still started off at a lower level.
Alright, in that case, we'll go A. And then we're not gonna rank these within tiers. You hear that, YouTube viewers? These are not ranked within tiers. Don't rip my head off. So now, Sparkle. Jesus Christ almighty. I don't
know.
This was so insane.
Yeah, it felt unnecessary, really, but...
Agreed.
It felt unnecessary, but now that I look at now that I look at current anomaly arbitration, I'm starting to say, yeah, it probably was necessary, first of all, but also, this was completely unbalanced.
A little bit! Just a little bit. Oh my god. Alright, so Sparkle got more skill points on ult. She can now overcap and keep them. She got way better energy regen. She got her damage boost changed to be easier to get, and I believe stronger.
No, she doesn't even have a damage boost anymore. It's vulnerability now.
Oh shit, you're right. It is damage taken. Oh my god. Then they made it so that if you consume 3 or more skill points, you now don't have your skill cost anything. Yeah,
that was good.
You have just a better overall attack boost. They got rid of the mono quantum scaling and just made it that powerful to begin with at all times. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, they put in a better energy regen. So now whenever somebody who has the boost of her skill uses skill points, you get energy back. And also they changed her Eidolons.
They also increased the duration on her skill buff, which was very impactful for her playstyle.
Oh, they did. Yeah, they upgraded it. I'm just not sure how to feel about it, because, like, these are all objectively good changes. Like,
the funny part is that they just didn't change her Eidolons either. Like, it was already good enough, actually. The Novaflare is kind of, the Novaflare had some indirect effects on her Eidolons that didn't need changing, but they got better.
Yup! Like, what are we doing with E1 and E2? Like, E2, they just made E2 even better when it was already one of the better support Eidolons in the game. And then now E1 makes her not only easier to build, but also gives you now a combined 85% attack boost.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Like, what are we doing here? I don't know. It's a lot of good changes. They kept quite a few of the more specific aspects of her kit. They made her way better with the skill points. She still has the 50% action advance.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. It's like, yeah, they just made her, like, insanely better. They just improved every single part of her kit. Like, plain and simple.
It's very similar to Kafka, I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They went way harder into... But here's the thing about Kafka, she's a DOT unit, so she was always kind of in a contained slot, you know, as a support.
Mm-hmm.
She was always going to just be locked there. Sparkle is a hyper carry buffer, and even teams that don't spend a lot of skill points actively use her because her stat buffs are just nasty.
Yep.
Like even if you're not double turning, somehow she's better than Sunday. That's a very impressive feat. Well, okay, maybe not that impressive, but still.
Again, it's interesting seeing the differences between kind of like a pre-anomaly Novaflare versus a post-anomaly Novaflare, because this one specifically felt so overwhelming, the amount of changes and like how big the actual changes were. You could always see the results in real time because you saw just how much better a lot of DPSs were doing with Sparkle now on the team.
You can tell the difference by how balanced the anomaly arbitration that they debuted in with. In Sparkle's Novaflare debut, she got away with a 2-cost with Archer. And that's not even like a real 2-cost because both of those units were free. So, like if you look at a unit that was Novaflare to be balanced with anomaly arbitration versus the ones that weren't, it's very obvious.
Meanwhile, cut to Jingliu's best clear on a night. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like, in terms of actual gameplay ability, it's a great Novaflare. Well,
yeah,
very strong.
This is one thing though. I think the most interesting part of a Novaflare, like in terms of changing her playstyle, is
what's up?
The E1's a speed buff is very interesting for low cycling and like optimizing in general. But that's pretty much it. She plays the exact same thing. She's just a lot more simple.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like, I don't know. For that reason, I'm kind of just leaning B. Because again, they made her way better, but also she's still functionally the exact same character. Like she does all of the exact same things.
Yeah, I think she's the most similar to Kafka, really. Just a very good unit that was overtuned to be broken in her specific
in her niche.
Her specific niche, yeah.
Yep.
They completely triple down on it. That's fine.
Yeah, it's not even doubling down anymore. It's tripling. That's crazy. All right. Now we are at the newest batch of Novaflares. Do I really want to talk about Huohuo right now? Yeah, let's just rip.
No.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to skip this one? We can do this one later.
Okay, so the way I look at this tier list is S is an extremely good glow up from the first version. Like it just the kit makes a lot of sense. It is a lot more cohesive. It's just very good. Just a complete overhaul of the unit for the better. Everything makes sense. Yeah. In A, everything makes sense. It's not as big of an overhaul compared to their base version, but it's still a pretty big amount of changes. B is the unit's effective role didn't change at all, but they still got better changes that are really good.
Yes.
C is a bit misdesigned, but you know, it didn't change much of the issues, but at least there were changes. D is you might as well have released this unit without a Novaflare at all, and I think there's only one unit that could qualify for that.
Yep. Yes. This was the most upsetting thing to see in the span of the betas. Me and my friend would constantly check to see every single beta that came out, like, okay, surely they've improved her a little bit by now. Surely they've improved her a little bit by now. Surely they've improved her, and no, it just never happened. They just did such a minimal amount with this character. Also, one of the parts that just upset me the most was that they changed her E1 to include a 20% outgoing healing boost.
I think she always had that. Wait a sec.
No. The outgoing healing boost was added in, I think.
Oh, that's bad.
They added in a 20% outgoing healing boost, and it's like, okay, so you're really telling me that you couldn't just make this into the base kit or anything?
I mean, it wouldn't even change anything. That's the problem.
Yeah, that... Like,
she stacked so much outgoing healing on her light cone, her build, because it's just not sustainable otherwise.
They couldn't make it like a form of damage reduction. They didn't give her any more impactful buffs upon that ult. When they did, it was a 24% attack boost, which is like, oh wow, cool. And it's also so specified for, like, what? Like 5 characters who are DPS? Like Saber, Aglaya, and then like Elation characters?
And the problem with that is also, it doesn't last long enough because Aglaya is super fast. Saber double turns. She actually triple turns already. Yep. So, like, it just doesn't last very long. It's such a confusing Novaflare because my hopes for Huohuo is that they would remove a lot of the clunky stuff in her kit so she would actually be a capable sustain.
Yes.
But also her team synergies are completely locked down. That didn't happen at all.
No.
Her sustaining is almost the same, actually. It got better, but like if you're playing Huohuo, it really isn't all that different. Where it would be considered a Novaflare, you might as well call it, okay, there's a stage buff here that gives you an extra tick of healing. There would be no change for that. But the buffs don't make sense because they're just too short. The SP efficiency change doesn't make any sense because her sustain is so bad. You're gonna skill every turn anyway, or somewhere around that range. You're still gonna do it.
Yep.
And then their Eidolons are okay, like it's, and she doesn't even fully commit into Silverwolf's Elation team because her attack buff is useless.
Yep.
She doesn't fully commit to the Evanescia team either because, I mean, sure, the energy punchline gen, okay, but that team is a lot squishier because you're not building defense stats on Evanescia now either. So like, yeah, I don't know, man. This is like the most upsetting Novaflare because it was just nothing. At least with the Jingliu one, they tried.
It accomplishes nothing. It's still designed for a shield team, and then it doesn't even accomplish that purpose well because she still sucks. You're still trying to run essentially a 1.x sustain with 4.x mechanics, damage, and bosses. You get nothing out of this.
Nothing really, yeah. You know, I would have rather taken Huohuo to be at least capable enough of a sustain that has enough boost to at least be competitive, but that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
The best way I can put this right now is just in a Novaflare patch where I saw Firefly and Huohuo in it. Somehow her getting the least impact, that is unbelievable.
She's in the Novaflare batch with a standard unit and Firefly, and she still lost.
That's insane! How did we have that happen?
A standard unit, a 50-50 loss, and Firefly, and she's the one that got the worst one. She went against all odds to be the worst Novaflare ever. That's very impressive, really.
Okay, actually, let's talk about Firefly real quick since she's like 2 sentences.
She implants on Blast. She got a higher super break damage multiplier. Her E2 is now every turn refresh instead of a 1-turn cooldown, and okay, there we go. That's it.
And now she delays enemies when she breaks them. Or no, she delays her countdown when she breaks them.
Up to only 3 times, which is like, I think she saves like 5 speed sub stats around that area, which is okay. That's fine, I guess.
It's nice. It's comfortable. I mean, they made her better.
Yeah.
And it all.
I feel like it's the inverse of Jingliu. Where they didn't change much, but yeah, she got better, you know?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great point. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know, like, this feels like the most damn, here you go, Novaflare. Like, it has a positive effect, it's just so weird. It feels like they kind of didn't want to do it, which is what I'm confused about.
It feels like they know that Firefly is unbalanced. I don't know, it feels like they had some sort of building block of an idea for Firefly's Novaflare, and they didn't execute it. Like, I think the delay on the countdown is so interesting, but all it does is lower your speed substat build, which I don't know if that was the original design for it, because I feel like there could be so much more with that countdown delay.
Yes.
But I feel like they had like 4 changes lined up for Firefly, and they just settled with 2. I don't know. It feels like that.
It feels somewhat half-baked. The baked side did end up, like, good, so...
Yeah, it's okay,
so
I guess.
Weird.
Like, it's just weird,
so
yeah.
Weird. Alright, where do we want to put this, I guess?
I definitely don't think it's as good as Kafka's and Sparkles.
Agreed.
I don't think it's as bad as Huohuo. Nothing touches that.
No, nothing's touching Huohuo.
I think Jingliu is a pretty perfect spot, really.
Yeah, you know what? Alright, sounds good to me. Alright, and then we got these 2 left. Well, we finally get to be happy. So, Welt's change is... Oh my god, where do I start? They made all of his damage better. They gave him a completely unique debuff that is incredibly powerful. They gave him the ability to increase damage dealt. They made it so that he can delay enemies more efficiently. He can still reduce speed. Like, they made all of his Eidolons incredible, which for a standard banner character that you can get multiple Eidolons of somewhat easily, to have a good E1, a good E2, a great E4, and then, I mean, the E6 isn't bad. But yeah, so to have amazing Eidolons, already a really good base kit that can be serviceable as a really good sustainless option, a great general support, or as a DPS option. What more can you ask for, genuinely? Especially when he was in the dumps right before this Novaflare had come out.
I always felt like Welt's design was one of the most interesting ones because it's a delay unit that can flex as either a main DPS. Back in 1.0, he can flex as a main DPS, he can flex as like a pseudo sustain, and he can flex as a support. Just the fact that he can fit in so many roles was very unique to him, actually. A lot of units were very pigeonholed into certain roles already. And his Novaflare change is that he gets to do that again, but now he's in 4.x, so it's a lot better. And I really like that because it's like the overall identity of Welt hasn't changed. He's a kind of an all-rounder unit that can fit in any role. He can be the carry, he can be the support, he can be the sustain, and he can do all three if you really want to. That's always been kind of an interesting design. He's just better now at 4.x. Unlike, Kafka and Sparkle, he's very much more creatively designed because they kind of have to. He's very old, so...
Yeah, they had to...
I like that part.
They had to really get creative with him because, oh my god, this is a 1.x character. Nobody plays them as is anyway, so you need to find some sort of incentive. Again, what they did for him, I love it. On my channel, I've made multiple videos about essentially like hybrid characters. It is a really, really interesting topic to me. Characters who can kind of fit into multiple molds, or it's like they're capable of accomplishing multiple things, and Welt was initially in those videos. He
does everything.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It is such an incredibly unique design, and it's a shame that for the longest time, it didn't really work as well as you would want it to, because he was old, there are substantially better options, and what he
gets blocked by CC, yeah.
Yep. What he could do was often not actually very achievable, and even at its best, it just wasn't that good. And now they've just redone all of that. So he still gets to be this hyper diverse character, super unique. He gets to fulfill all these roles, and he is so damn good at it now. And every part of his kit, it's designed so well to the point that you can have him in any of these roles reasonably, and it would make perfect sense.
Yeah, also, I always found it really interesting how Welt's Eidolons interacted with each other. Like, even before the Novaflare, the fact that his E2 would interact with his E1, his E4 would interact with E2 and E1, his E6 would interact with every part of his kit.
Yep.
That was very interesting to me. Like, the Eidolons were very well designed, it's just that the numbers were bad.
It's such an interesting thing that Welt genuinely feels like a different character the more Eidolons you would get for him. Like, it felt like a new possibility or like new potential would actually open up with every single Eidolon slot. Whereas like some other characters, you get an Eidolon and it's like, oh, okay, my normal thing that I already do is just better now. Whereas with Welt, like, your E1 would always give you way more, like, it would give you a lot more damage. E2, that energy regen was super nice, and that was what would help you unlock if you wanted to do like a sustain Welt. That would help unlock that a lot. And then now we get to something like his current E4, which just makes him one of the most unbelievable supports in the entire game for any possible team. Because all-type res is so hard to complain about.
The only really worrying thing about Welt is that his numbers, like, it's always going to be a part of Welt's thing that if his numbers are bad, if the enemies just hit too hard, unfortunately, he's not going to last very long. Like, that's always been his problem ever since 1.x. So I guess that thing won't change, but still, they really tried with him, and that design is incredible.
But we want to just slide him up to the top
immediately?
I
think yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He got more changes than Silverwolf, and I think he had the most amount of effort in terms of Novaflare.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Like, you can tell they were actually trying to make a standard banner character competitive again, and they succeeded. And last but not least, Seele. So about that whole doubling and tripling down thing.
Yeah, she's very much the best example of that. I will say I'm less tough on her compared to Jingliu, because Jingliu is priced not adequately. The basic rundown of her kit is that her numbers just got much better, and then she finally has an extra skill proc on 50% HP enemies, just like Herta, but it's only limited to once per turn. So when she got her Novaflare announced, I was a bit wary on it, because I think that her base design itself is actually kind of incredible in that way. Like, it's such a unique kit and how much you can optimize with it. And the fact that they would Novaflare it makes me scared a little bit that they would overcomplicate the gameplay, or they would make it too oversimple. Like, it ruins the charm of Seele, right?
Yeah.
If you do that. So with this Novaflare, I think they actually struck I think a very good balance between keeping the audience that would run Seele very happy with how she plays, and also she's not overpoweredly strong enough that anyone that would want to run Seele is going to
get that same reward.
Struggle with it a bit. She's going to have to. She has a very high skill ceiling to learn, right?
Yeah.
Did a really good balance of preserving her base design that was already simple but effective, and also keeping the players that are already playing her happy, which I think achieved the goal. Despite it being very simple, there's a lot of interactions that would be very fun to play around with, which I think, that's a good Novaflare in my opinion.
Agreed. It adds more depth while also keeping the identity of the character, similar or the same to what it was, but you've made them more fun, you've made them better, you've made them more interesting. You've given the fans of that character exactly what they would want, and then people who don't have the character because, oh wow, they're old, I don't want them, now you've made them interested in that character by giving them this higher potential. So now it just matters of where are we gonna put her. It's funny because
actually
it feels in the same range as B, because oh yeah, the kid is still very similar to what it should be, but I don't know, it kind of feels like a bit more thought into how complex it can be and how much hot and other things that you can do with it, like new interactions. It feels like that was more thought out with Seele, which I do like a lot.
I think they added more depth than the Sparkle and Kafka ones.
Exactly. I'm kind of leaning towards A for that reason.
I'm fine with that.
And there we go.
Please mention. I want you to put a permanent
slap a disclaimer on screen.
Slap a disclaimer on stream that this is not power based. You could just put a permanent watermark, because I don't want to be associated with this type of thing.
People are gonna see this and see your name on it.
This is just how much we like the design, okay?
Yes.
Just how much we like the design.
How good I think the designs improved on the characters. That's where we're at, guys. Those of you who skipped to the end of the video, go back. Go back and listen to the damn
Throughout
intro.
This entire video, there will be a watermark that says Twitter sucks. This is a tier list based on what we like instead of the power of the character, because this would be very different otherwise.
That was pretty good. And just under 2 hours. That's going to be a fun edit. I'm excited. This was a good video, so thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate that. It was a good time.